Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. Welcome to our webinar, Sovereign AI, Keeping Your Data Secure and Controlled, brought to you by our friends at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and NVIDIA. I'm Brian Mink, co-founder and president of Data Science Connect, the world's largest data and AI community. Today, we're excited to welcome hundreds of attendees from all over the world to discuss what sovereign AI really means for public sector leaders, exploring how to maintain control over data while deploying powerful AI systems. Governments are rapidly integrating AI to improve services and strengthen national capabilities, but doing so without compromising data sovereignty is a complex balancing act. From regulatory compliance to infrastructure design, our speakers will unpack the strategies that make AI innovation secure, lawful, and accountable. Whether you're managing national data assets or architecting AI deployments, this is a conversation you'll want to be a part of. To join that conversation, we encourage you to take advantage of the Q&A and chat features in the right sidebar. Our panel of speakers will be addressing your questions at the end of the webinar. With that, I want to welcome our speakers to the stage. So we have with us joining us today, Bhuvana Gudad, Chief Technologist, WWANPS AI Services at HPE, Shilpa Kohatkar, Global Head of AI Nations at NVIDIA, and Steve Heinbein, Federal AI Chief Technologist at HPE. So now that you've met each of our panelists, I'm going to show a brief video from HPE and NVIDIA to kick things off here, and then I'll hand over the stage to Shilpa. So now we'll start with this video. Just one moment while we get that loaded onto the stage.
Unlock AI. Unlock the potential to do more, solve more, discover more. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and NVIDIA unlock the power of generative AI, combining HPE's enterprise-grade mastery with NVIDIA's revolutionary AI breakthroughs. We're co-developing and co-innovating to simplify the complexities of AI, making it easier and faster to deploy. Not only are we building and creating together, our combined solutions empower teams to do the same, scaling AI from individual data scientists to an enterprise-wide platform for innovation. With all these things coming together as one, organizations can deliver on AI-driven business outcomes faster, seeing results in weeks instead of years. Welcome to the new world of NVIDIA AI computing by HPE. It's time to unlock AI.
All right, very exciting intro there, and now we're very excited to hear from Shilpa, our first presenter. So I'll turn over the stage to you, Shilpa.
Thank you so much, Brian. And thanks, Stephen and Team HPE. Really excited to be here today. I understand most of you are selling to US federal and state and local governments. I am responsible for a strategic initiative called AI Nations at NVIDIA, in which we work closely with governments around the world to help convert their AI strategies into execution. So today, I hope to give you a global perspective on sovereign AI and spark some ideas on how you can tie it back to your opportunities across state and local US sovereignty conversations, especially because this is top of mind around data protection, autonomy, and topics around security. So AI has gone mainstream. We know that every company, every country is now part of that AI revolution, right? So while everyone is rapidly adopting and consuming AI, the critical question is now, who is producing it? Nation states are shifting their focus from being just consumers to becoming creators, producers, and innovators of AI solutions, and thereby driving strategic investments to build those sovereign capabilities. And no matter what market research report you pick up, new investments in AI are being announced and increasingly realized as well on a nearly daily basis. So governments across the globe are recognizing that urgency of becoming producers of intelligence, of AI. And as awareness grows, we can continue to expect a surge in meaningful AI deployments, not only across government and enterprises, but also to energize the broader strategy around talent and pipeline development and development of the startup and SME ecosystem. Right? So, in the very definition of sovereign AI, I'd like to kind of reiterate here is sovereign AI refers to a nation state's capability to develop and deploy AI using its own infrastructure, its own local data sets, skilled workforce, business ecosystems, right? So, a nation's data is very much like it's akin to its natural resource. It's becoming the most valuable asset for a nation. And so harnessing this data responsibly can generate intelligence that actually drives the societal and the economic advancements, which is why no matter what market research you pick up, I mean, you're going to see billions in value creation, and you're going to see adoption of AI on the rise within enterprises, which is no surprise there, right? Many of us in our applications day-to-day work have AI co-pilots and agents infused in these applications already. So sovereign AI is really rooted in the imperative to produce and control AI domestically, and the need to have some degree of self reliance and reduce that vulnerability to foreign infrastructure and foreign models. Which is why we are seeing up to 75% of cloud workloads could move to sovereign clouds in the near future. So, the recipe that's been adopted for implementing sovereign AI is nation states investing in a stack of capabilities. But ultimately, at the top, the bar on the top is tying it to the outcomes, to the policy imperative, right? So it's much less about AI or about technology, but it's about the future of the economy. And there's a few key ingredients under that, which is domestic AI capabilities for the ecosystem which can help produce that AI, investors, developers, scientists, entrepreneurs, a wide spectrum of local AI skills and talent, not only the next generation of students, but also people currently in the workforce who need to be upskilled to use AI as a tool. And foundation models created on local data sets, hosted on local infrastructure. And for creation of all this, you need a special kind of infrastructure, and you must have heard the term AI factories, which is the new paradigm shift. Back in the Industrial Revolution days, it was raw material going into factories and goods were being produced. And what this is now is AI factories, the raw material going in is data, and what comes out is tokens in the technical term, or intelligence, which then drives your economic growth, job creation, basic and applied research, scientific discovery, and innovation, and AI adoption across industries. So the locally owned AI infrastructure, AI factories, ensures that data sovereignty, adherence to local regulations, and use cases span from everywhere from smart cities to public health to climate modeling and more. Now, this is really the blueprint to build the sovereign AI platform. It has all the necessary building blocks, right, in a full stack manner, whether it's for AI, whether it's for HPC, robotics, or simulation. For HP NVIDIA solution is where customers can turbocharge the AI development of customers through ready to consume AI software and blueprints for making digital twins, for creating citizen chatbots, for creating digital agents, for creating agentic AI, genomics, drug discovery, what have you. So, with this blueprint, we are providing the startups and entrepreneurs an easy way and a flexible way to design and maintain their applications. And it acts as a glue to attract and retain local talent and startups because, NVIDIA is also in every single cloud. So this is a huge benefit for your customers, for your partners, for your ecosystem, the ability to port and the flexibility to design and maintain their applications across, hybrid infrastructure. So with services like HP NVIDIA Infrastructure Specialists, the time it takes to stand up a cluster is incredibly fast. For example, the XAI cluster with 100,000 GPUs was stood up in just 122 days. Like, it's a remarkable feat given its scale and complexity. And that's why we have called out the NVIS and the partner services available on the right hand side of the slide. Here's an example of how nations around the world are developing or building their sovereign AI cloud. In this case, Indonesia partnered with its telco, IOH, which provides telco services to the entire nation. So it has data centers, it has the network, it has the reach. And so it's an ideal partner to build, manage, and operate the sovereign AI cloud. And so in some cases, the telco, in some cases, the regional CSP or an energy company is starting to show up as the sovereign AI cloud. We also wanted to highlight some of our own NVIDIA HPE wins. And these deals that you see here, these deployments have already been awarded. And it's based on the new HPE Cray 254N Blade and HPE Cray EX supercomputers. And so as you can see, HPE NVIDIA has been awarded many AI supercomputers around the globe based on this architecture. And these are really very wide and very heavy cabinets that fit up to 64 compute blades in 8 compute chassis in a single cabinet, right? So this is like industry leading design. There's a readiness piece to make sure that regular data centers are in a have the readiness in order to home and host these supercomputers. So we have a spectrum of different use cases across different industries. And the requirement for sovereignty really is not just limited to public sector. It is across financial services. It is across healthcare. These industries, sovereignty matters a lot. In financial services, where identities, payments, and data have a critical requirement to be protected and secure, it makes it very suitable for a workload within a sovereign cloud rather than a public cloud. Within public sector as well, there's responsibility for safeguarding large amounts of critical data, right, about citizens and of residents. Similarly, in pharma, the sector is filled with patient-related sensitive data sets. So healthcare has regulations put in place to protect patient data. Another one is critical infrastructure, as this covers areas like energy and transport and networking, where information is generated and it's treated as data protected information. The complexity of customers meeting different regulations is shown here, and this team is an opportunity for NVIDIA and HPE to help our partners, to help our ecosystem. But it's not just a vertical focus we need to think about. We need to think about a geographical one as well. Every region has its own evolving regulatory landscape, data residency requirements, and sovereignty priorities. And for that, I will now pass the mic to Bhuvana, who will talk about how HPE is helping navigate these complexities with tailored AI infrastructure and services. Over to you, Bhuvana.
Thank you, Shilpa. So, Shilpa covered most bit of it from the perspective of building block approach and the initial stuff. And let's now deep dive into what are some of the principles of digital sovereignty, right? Digital sovereignty always it starts with data. For anything today starts, of course, with data, right? Organization must ensure to have data localization, meaning the data is stored and processed within the local boundaries or national borders, right? And then it just doesn't stop there. Then it goes on to the data privacy and data protection. What does that mean, right? So the individuals or the organizations know how their data is being consumed by the applications or how their data is being used. Then it goes on to data governance, right? It's always good practice to have the local regulations to govern the data. And it is better to have the regional laws rather than relying on the foreign entities. Then it goes on to, like, knowingly or unknowingly, sometimes we introduced unconscious bias. What does that really mean, right? If we don't have the right representation of the data within the model development or whatever the application we are developing, then of course the model accuracy will not be accurate, right? So that's the reason it's always good practice to have the right amount of representation of the data. Let's move on to the operational sovereignty. In operational sovereignty, organization must ensure that they have complete visibility and control over their, IT operations. And to build the trust within the systems, it's best practice always to have the, the audits and the transparency and the monitoring aspects built, and the audits are done frequently based on the regional laws again, right? So that's all about the operational sovereignty. Then it moves on to the technology sovereignty. Today, organization aims to have the complete control over their full stack technology stack, right from starting from the infrastructure and moving up to the software stack. Software stack includes your components of the software, and then the models, the algorithms, the data, everything, right? And also organization must ensure that the proper interoperability is built so that you are not getting the vendor lock-in process, or you have uh, homegrown access or homegrown access to your data, wherein you can have your homegrown innovation also built, which is really a capability or the innovation space for to have the technology sovereignty built to the fuller extent. With that, let's see what are some of the enterprise silent challenges we see with the customers, especially when building the sovereign AI clouds, right? With this aspect, I have seen customers, especially on the around the data, right? There is a lot of the growing wave around the regulations, right? So each region or the each geography is coming up with their own regulations and laws, and most of it aim towards to have the data to be stored locally. When the data is stored locally, then your AI model development, training, deployment, governance, etc., has to happen local, right? It just doesn't stop there. Then it goes to the next layer where you need to have your the proper metrics at every layer of this AIML whole life cycle. And then you need to have the proper tools and technology integrated so that you have the complete assurance or end-to-end, the integration built to ensure that there is a complete compliance of the systems. Then it goes on to, how does the operations are controlled, right? Because we see there is a greater concern with many of the organization today on the data leaks itself, or data protection, or unauthorized access to the sensitive data, especially the sensitive data, right? It's because we don't know, right? The data is stored locally, the data is managed locally, the operations are done locally, but still, if you think of the higher end of the operations of monitoring, the incident management and things like that, that shouldn't move out of the region, right? So that should also happen within the region so that there is end to end again the security norms built around it, right? And if the data is not just around storing and managing it, but also you need to think it from the broader perspective, because today hyperscalers are most of the hyperscalers today store the data locally, right? But how about the auditability? How about the monitoring aspects? Are these still controlled by foreign entities? This is another challenge where we have seen customers, literally talking about this and saying that this is one of the requirement which they are not able to meet it, right? Because of which, again, the lot of the applications are not moving to the production. And I have literally seen a customer who has built their application, right? Who asked us. I have seen the end-to-end deployment, development to the deployment of one particular AI use case where we built everything and using the synthetic data, because they never gave us access to the sensitive data because of the data leak challenges at their end, right? They were very sensitive about it, and they wanted to secure their data, right? And after the development happens, how do you test that model accuracy, right? The customer data scientist used to take the laptop and get it to the isolated room where, without access to any of the other devices, to test with the real data to see whether the model predictions are right or wrong, right? So this shows a primary challenge, right? So if we are doing this way, then how are we going to scale, right? So these are literally the practical challenges which we see with many of the customers today, right? Now, with all these principles and with all these challenges, what is HPA's solution, right? How HP is addressing these challenges. So we have platforms which we are building, private cloud platforms specifically, which are end-to-end secured, which are secured from end to end, right from different layers, right from the infra layer to your data layer to your application layer to your API layer to your application layer, right? So all the layers are being compliant, and the compliance is applied based on the region laws and not from just the compliance from whatever the standards are, right? And today we are in the world of personalization, right? When we talk about the personalization, we are in the hyper personalization era, because customers, I have seen, literally asking the minute of the minute aspects of hyper personalization to be adapted or to be implemented when we are building the applications for the customers, right? So the open source models are available, but customers are not comfortable, especially in the federal sectors. I have seen customers saying that no, it's an open source model, so I cannot trust and I cannot do the inference with a model which is stored in the cloud, right? So for that kind of customers, it's always good practice to have the models to be deployed on prem and then have the data on prem and then inference on prem, right? So this way you are adhering to the your data governance or your AI sovereignty data governance, and then the data sovereignty aspects are met, and you are protecting your data from the data flows, leaks, and other stuff, right? Or unauthorized access. And then it just doesn't stop there, right? So what next? We cannot compromise on the performance and the availability. Performance is at the highest aspect when it really comes to the cloud platforms, right? So we ensure that the performance aspects are met, and also for the mission critical applications the highest availability is provided, and also you have your DR and backup facilities also available, right? And then once you have the platform, what about who is going to implement it, right? So that's where you are going to get into the services aspects, where you have services from every layer, right from the infrastructure till the applications, right? So there are multiple layers, or you saw when Shilpa presented the building blocks for every layer or every building block, there are different services offered, right? And especially for the SORN EI, it's all start from infrastructure, because you need to have the infrastructure locally available where you can control your operations, right? So there are services which are aligned to your infrastructure readiness, and then also you need to have the right skills, right? So today I have seen this as one of the challenge with customers, where, oh, I want to have all the application, this trending application to be built, be it a Gen AI or be it Soar AI applications, to have the complete platform is adapted to Soar AI, and then you have an application running on top of it. But then we see that the skills are missing, right? So it's essential to have these Soar AI skills where we understand those local regulations and apply that back to your architecture while building the solution itself at every layer. And then you also need to have those skills to kind of translate them into the technological stack, where you are choosing the components which would help you or which would allow you to help with the transparency and auditability aspects of it, right? And data is the foundation for everything. So data governance, data quality are important aspects when it comes to these kind of platforms, especially on the Sonia, right? With that, then what are the options, right? So always we look for the options. So we ensure that the platform we are recommending or we are building, or the private cloud we are offering, which is hybrid in nature, or also it's just not hybrid in nature, it's also best sized to your workload based on your data capacity, based on your users, based on the model capacities, the technology stack, everything. So all these aspects are considered when we are recommending a platform, ensuring the performance, the HA capabilities, and then elasticity, scalability are also addressed, right? And you see two options. One is on the SOAR management, which is like you have the platform built, which is fully managed and operated by the partners in the same geography and not crossing the national borders, right? And adhering to the principle of your technology, data, and operational sovereignty, right? And then on the disconnected management, this is specifically for the customers where I have seen, literally, we have seen where it is air gapped environment. You cannot even open the ports to do the inference. We have actually faced those challenges where we have to understand the firewall parts, sit with the IT infrastructure team to see which are the reliable ones which can be opened, which are the restricted ones, and how do you tune those applications, and how do you tune the infrastructure back to ensure that the platform is built and the application are running in these kind of premises as well, right? And in air gapped environment, even you are, I mean, there is no remote option at all, but also you need to have a person in person where the person is within the customer premises to build the whole infrastructure and the application components to it, right? And in the air gapped environment specifically, I have literally seen the customers, scanning every Docker image or every application you are building, scanning it from end to end and trying to understand what components are there within those applications or within that platform which you are building, and what is the impact of it, right? So these are the options which we provide from the services perspective and from the HP perspective, right? With that, now we see how does this look like when I think of it from the operationalizing it from the services perspective, right? If I say it from, don't correlate these days to the actual days. It is mostly to categorize and then kind of have the categories and bucketize so that it's for an easy reference, right? Day minus one is all about advising and consultation, where we sit with the customer, understand the requirement needs, and tune the platform or have the platform readiness and consult and see the maturity assessment and perform all those pre-sales activities. Or it's basically to be a trusted advisor for the customer to map the business and the real requirements back to the technology and the platform. And then comes your design and planning. Once you have the right requirements available, then it's about design and planning. How do I design my whole cluster? How do I plan it? And how do I create the work packages? What is a project plan would look like? What are my deliverables would look like? And how are the days associated with these, right? After this, then it goes into the implementation and integration, where you actually take that whole package and implement it on the customer environment, and then you integrate. Because today, any application you take, any cluster you build, it cannot independently exist, right? So we all have to agree on that. There is a legacy infrastructure, there are legacy applications. Whatever intelligence you build, you have to go and integrate somewhere. If nothing more, at least you will have to go and integrate with your IT infrastructure which already exists, right? To have that coherence, or there is some amount of the affinities built between the clusters or between the applications or between the data too, right? And then run and optimize, right? So this is basically a data operation where it is more of like, once you have everything ready, what next, right? So example would be like, the regulations keep changing, right? So how do you ensure that those regulations are in place whenever there is a change, right? So it's kind of like, in technological terms, if I have to put it, it's about continuous integration and continuous deployment, right? So there is some change in the either in the system or in the regulation, or there is in the business need, or there is some change in the requirement need. So you will have to run and optimize and apply it back, right? So this is how it translates. And then if you see the multiple layers of our the portfolio, there are multiple services offered at every layer, right? Let's start from the top one, cybersecurity services. It ensures that all the security services are available, right from model threat analysis, or maybe your security layer applied at the application level, or it could be applied at the infrastructure layer, right? So all the layers are covered with different services of the cybersecurity services. Then, of course, the intelligence is all about today on the data and AI. We have a huge amount of services which are applied from traditional AI to the Gen AI to the ML ops to the LLM ops, everything, right? It covers the broader spectrum, and then we cannot let go of the data. So the data is like a core prominent factor for everything today. So data, we have multiple services, right? From identifying the different data sources, and then how do you tie it, how do you cleanse it, and the whole process of building the data platform and data pipeline, right? And then comes to your cloud platform services, where it is all about your the infrastructure and having the right cluster built with the right components, with the right observability stack, right security stack. Everything is integrated and up for your top layer cybersecurity and data services to consume. And then comes your sustainability services and managed services. Sustainability services is becoming a prominent one today in the industry, because everybody are conscious of their environment, right? So we have multi sustainability services. And then managed services is all about After you have the everything built out, then who is going to manage it for a certain amount of time? That's where the managed services comes into the play. With all this, right? So technology is changing very fast. So we need to have certain amount of upskill for every employee within the organization or within the enterprise to manage and maintain whatever we have built. So that's where you will get your educational services, right? And if I double down on those each of the days or the activities or the categories, this is how you see it from the broader perspective, right? It starts all from day -1. That's where your advice and consultancy. And if you double down and see, there are two kinds of services, right? Basically, the transformation workshop is all about understanding the customer business requirements, their goals, their key KPIs, their short-term objectives, long-term objectives, build the roadmap, and have that whole holistic approach built, right? And then comes your cloud readiness assessment. This is like customer would say that, hey, I already have a roadmap and I have everything what I require to start with. Then it's about assessment, right? Just to ensure that there is no gap left. If there is a gap, we identify that gap early on and then see what kind of services can be offered or how we can bridge that gap with the right technology and the right stack. Then it goes on to the day zero where you will actually design and plan, right? So this is where you will have the whole transformational architecture approach built along with all the packages, the high level design, the low level design, the solution architecture, the component, everything is defined, and then you have made the plan, right? Then it comes your integration and implementation. As I already mentioned, you will implement the platform and then you will integrate back with all the components of the security and rest of the stuff there, right? So that's where you will have your data security integration and security integration for your application to protect the whole stack and the application too, right? And then once this whole package ready, right? So this is all done with that. Then it goes on to the governance, risk, and compliance, where you try to assess the continuous changes in the environment or from the laws or from the regulations, and then from the technology stack or from the data side. And then wherever you see the change, and then you go back and start the process again or see where are the gaps and apply it, right? So that is more to run and optimize and keep up the stack or iterative approach all the time, right? With this, let me hand it over to Steve for his section. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. What I want to do now is look at it. Shilpa described what is sovereign AI and what the value of it is, and then Bhavana was talking about the services associated with that. What I'm going to discuss now is more of, let's look at how you can build out a sovereign AI or an on-prem cloud that you can get to control a lot of these capabilities. But one thing you find is that it's not that easy always. Sometimes it's very hard to make something very simple. So what we did is, together with NVIDIA, HPE and NVIDIA, what we did is we came up with a solution that we think would fit a lot of the customers. And so we developed this thing that we called the private cloud AI solution. And let me walk through it a little bit. So when you start looking at what we have with the private cloud AI solution, what you've got is a variety of features and capabilities we want to build into this to make this a turnkey generative AI platform, simple to use. It's co-engineered by both us and NVIDIA. It's an on-premise cloud experience. So what you have is you have the same type of experience you expect in the cloud, right? Ease of use, being able to deploy applications very simply. It's primarily for developing and deploying generative AI, but also works with machine learning, deep learning, other applications that you want to run on there. In fact, the hardware itself, what we did is we worked that off of the NVIDIA specification for the OVX platform, the Omniverse platform. So it is very extensible from that standpoint. One thing that's very interesting about this, a lot of times when you talk about deployments, we can actually, from the moment you move the rack, and these are actually rack-based, completely complete, all in there, all in one. It has the storage, has the networking, has the servers, has the GPUs, the accelerators, etc. All there, all pre-built for you at our factory. We bring it on site. And when this rack or racks, depending on whether you're talking about small, medium, large, or extra large, we have these t-shirt sizes, which I'll show in a couple of minutes. But what we've done is we made it simple so that from the day you move it from your loading dock to your data center, we usually have these things up, installed, running, and actually can show you a RAG implementation, retrieval augmented generation, a version of a large language model. And so what that allows you to do is actually show with your content, retrieval augmented generation, right? I retrieve your data, I augment a large language model, and then we generate answers using your material. And so with that, we show that at the end of the day. So you can see that it's now integrated into your data center, connected up to your individual data sources as well. Okay, but it's very robust software stack, and I'll go through there. It's a combination of NVIDIA and HPE goodness, and I'll tear that down next slide. But it's very high performance, built for purpose to be able to give you something that has been co-engineered for the purpose of high-speed data analytics, large language models, generative AI, etc. But along the way, it's not just enough to get the hardware up. What we want to do is make sure we get you to the point of productivity. So what we've done is we include a variety of both quick start solution accelerators that HPE has developed, which are, think of those as small MVP, minimally viable product applications for doing things like chat or code development and other things. And then what we also did is we made sure that it works with all of the NVIDIA blueprints that are coming out. NVIDIA is developing new blueprints for different areas in everything from the biosciences, for math, for chat, large language models, all sorts of use cases, image vision, etc. And so what we want to do is make sure that these are all available, easy to bring up. And in fact, the way we set these up, they become an icon on your screen. So if you want to run something like a chatbot, and then you can click on that, it'll bring this up, make that very simple for you. So what we've done is this low code, no code retrieval augmented generation. It's really as simple as what you do is you say, okay, which model would I like to run? And then you have access to models from NVIDIA and the NVIDIA NIMs that go along with this, which the NVIDIA NIM is it's the NVIDIA inferencing microservice, which means that it's able to actually run that model, and it's all contained in a single container aspect to be able to send that out. But with that, first you pick your model, then you say, okay, where's my source of data? So I pick my source of data, and then the third button, I say, what do I want my interface to be? So it's that simple to bring up a chatbot. Now with the stack, earlier today, Shilpa showed you a stack, the generic stack of what the way NVIDIA looks at things when they look at an AI factory. What we did is we took that same stack and said, yes, we want to make sure that we have the things like all the community partner and customizations and things that we can do for really the AI models. So you have those available. Then we use the NVIDIA AI Enterprise software, which is a very broad suite of applications, tools, and frameworks that make that actually Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, says that this is the operating system of AI. And so what we did is on top of that operating system, we put the HPE AI Essentials. That's where we make this very easy. We enhance the GUI. We make it simple to be able to do a 3-button implementation of a RAG, large language model. And then the other things, of course, the NVIDIA GPUs, NVIDIA Spectrum X, networking, and then the HPE servers, HPE file servers, and then the services, AI services that come along with it. The one thing about our AI services, not only do we do white glove installation and turnkey, it's a turnkey solution. Like I said, it has everything in the stack, from the hardware, the software, the network, the storage, everything all wired up, labeled, cabled for you. And then on the right-hand side, one thing that we've done is we've integrated that with our, what we call GreenLake is our private cloud, right? The cloud that comes to you. So what we do is we build out an on-prem cloud for that capability. But we use that software stack there to say, okay, it's not enough to just be able to develop and simplify the creation of AI applications or deployment. What we want to do is you got to manage this. This is still a server. This is still an environment. So what we did is we put our control plane over that basically does the setup, inventory, IT, asset management, lifecycle, et cetera. You see that workload provisioning, orchestration, VM runtimes, Kubernetes, cluster management, all the monitoring, observability. So basically what you have is on the right-hand side, you see all of those services that you need to make sure this is running optimally and that you can monitor what's going on. That's sitting on top of basically, you look at it from there's developer systems all the way to extra large. So it's like, think almost like t-shirt sizes, small, medium, large. And then I mentioned earlier the HPE GreenLake Cloud. We make it so that we can have it as a managed service, as an OpEx or a CapEx availability, for acquisition. Now let's look at the boxes themselves. Normally when somebody from HPE talks, first thing we go to is hardware. But what I wanted to let you know is there's so much more that we put on top of the hardware to make it easy for you to develop applications. So what we've done, if you want to start fast, we've got a developer system that makes it very easy between those two. The key is that the software that I mentioned above runs across every one of these solutions here. And so you can then either get the t-shirt size, small, medium, large, extra large is coming. It'll be second half of the year. And then with those, if you notice underneath small, for instance, it says that it can be 4 or 8 GPUs, medium 8 or 16, large 16 or 32. What it is, it's almost like saying, I've got a small t-shirt, but I need a long version of it, or a medium, I need a long version. So it's really gives you a variety of solutions in there. But as you can see, we include storage, we include the network, and we mentioned how much, and I'll bring this up later on, how many kilowatts that this uses. Because one thing that changes when you start doing clusters of GPUs, they are generally more powerful, but they're also power hungry, and they require a lot of cooling. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically what we want to do is make sure that we can set these up so they fit into your data center. These are all air-cooled solutions. The other thing I did mention how we make it simple for the NVIDIA blueprints and the tools that we've done to make it simple there with our HPE AI Essentials. Now, if you look at it there, you'll go in, there's tiles that you can just pick and say, oh, I want a virtual assistant. I want to run, ML Flow or Ray or whatever. So it makes it a very user-friendly interface to use. But what you can, if you want to bring your own open source tools or other tools, we make it simple to import them into the environment. So this way, what you have is an environment that is can handle any type of growth expansion. And while we anticipated, probably think of it like the 80-20 rule, we anticipated that 20% of the tools that you use 80% of the times, make sure that's all on there for you. But like I said, it's very extensible. Now, the things probably, if you start looking at it, the big value here is it's ready to run right out of the box. Like I said, 24 hours, we have that up. It scales as you grow. So what we can do is add additional GPUs, larger, but we also have it in, like I said, the small, medium, large format. Data privacy and control. We've been talking about sovereignty all along. And the one thing is, since this is on-prem with all these capabilities and that you have control of it, your storage there, your data there, your networks, your security enhancements. And so we try to make this so that it's a very easy way to do a turnkey sovereign AI solution. And as it was mentioned, this is really an end-to-end AI platform to be able to provide capabilities. I only had a few minutes to go through this, and what I wanted to do is I want to make sure that I could, give you a taste of what we can do here. In addition to this, we also do larger systems. In fact, one of the things is that HPE has built the 3 largest systems in the world according to the top 500 list. These are all systems that are over an exaflop in performance. And with those, what we've done is we actually have 6 of the top 10 most powerful supercomputers in the world. So we can go from t-shirt sizes up to bespoke systems that are AI factories as large as the largest one we have is almost 45,000 GPUs in it. So it just shows the expandability of what we can do. These are built really to think of this as a turnkey solution. But we, like I said, we can build out a custom solution of any size for you. And I just want to stop or finish with this part where if you sort of look at it, I've got the picture shows Jensen Huang, President, CEO, founder of NVIDIA, and Antonio Neri, who's our CEO and president, and actually the people from Los Alamos National Lab, all cutting the ribbon on here. And this is an example of a system that we built that is using the NVIDIA Grace Hopper chips. And Shilpa mentioned this earlier, how much we can pack in one of those racks because it's highly dense. We do up to 64 blades in a single rack. And on each one of those blades, we can have 8 Grace Hopper super chips on it. So basically what you would have is 512 Grace Hopper super chips in a single rack. And then, like you said, you can tell there were quite a few racks going on there. So that's where we've been able to build these out. But together, HPE, NVIDIA, we're working to be able to bring you solutions from edge to exascale, hybrid data foundation. We can work in the cloud, on-prem, off-prem, private, and as we said, sovereign. Gives you cloud experience everywhere. That's where our GreenLake comes in. What we can do is we can give you the cloud that comes to you and enterprise grade support. Bhavana was just talking about all the support services and situations that we have. So between all that, we think we have a very good solution, and we appreciate your time today. What we're going to do is we're going to go into questions and answers, and so be able to handle some of the questions. So Brian's going to come back up online with us.
There we go. Thanks, Steve and Shilpa and Bhavana. Excellent presentations. Now I just want to address some of the questions that we're getting. First question is for Shilpa. Shilpa, what role does sovereign AI play in strengthening national security and enabling economic independence?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, sovereignty, AI sovereignty especially has become top of mind for policymakers, for regulators. And that is basically what's spurring that demand towards building the local capabilities, on building the local ecosystems, giving the right compute access to the researchers and startups to create AI. So it's of utmost importance, not just from the criticality of an urgency, but also the value that it can bring to the economies.
Great points. Bhavana, next question is for you. What are some practical challenges that organizations face in deploying LLMs or Gen AI systems in sovereign environments?
So the practical challenges, which I already mentioned, I think we covered a lot of it, right? So the basic first most challenge is, how do I have a right data? Because if you don't have a right data, you cannot have the right accuracy or the right model built. Full stop, period, right? And then it goes on to your skills, right? Because it's today most of the organization face this problem because they don't have the right skill set in-house, right? So how do they empower themselves, or how can they have the right skills to, once it is building is one approach, right? But how do we maintain it for the long term, right? So with HPE and NVIDIA together, we are building all the platform, but somebody has to manage it for the long term. Having the right skills is another one, right? And most of the organization or most of the customers thinks that everything exists independently. No, that's not the answer, right? There is a lot of integration which has to happen for every application. There is a major integration challenges which they see, right? So these are some of the practical challenges which we have literally seen with many of the customers. Yep.
Great, thanks, Bhavana. We've got a couple of questions in the chat from Rupa. So I'll kind of pass these together. And Steve, why don't you take these first, and then Shilpa or Bhavana, if you want to chime in after that, you're welcome to. But the questions are from Rupa: how are these addressed high availability and fault tolerance with on-prem HPE private cloud AI? Steve, what are your
That's
thoughts?
great. I didn't tear down, but the when you looked in the racks, what we have everything except for the developer system, which is not set for high availability. The other one, what they did is they had three servers for doing Kubernetes, 3 servers for cluster management, 3 servers, multiple servers with GPUs. And so what that did was is all set up so that if any one of those servers failed, we'd still have operational capabilities within there. So it wasn't a case where you said, I have one login node, I've got multiple login nodes, et cetera. So that's built into the PCAI solution, the private cloud AI solution.
Great. And then Rupa's other question was, does this support only NVIDIA LLM models, NVIDIA supported LLMs, or any open source and proprietary LLMs?
No, it's wide open. What we do is we make it easy to access the NVIDIA models, also Hugging Face models, but you can go to GitHub, you can bring in other models. It's a very simple import process. Really, it's more a matter of just bringing it in. So, so if you see something that you want, in fact, in some of the examples we show, you can actually toggle your models, or you can put them side by side so you can have the results. That's some of those accelerators that we were talking about, solution accelerators to make that easy.
Yeah, and as Steve mentioned, I want to just add the point around democratizing AI, right? And that is why we are focused on supporting every open source model out there. These days, there's a concept of mixture of experts, which is how we are making it possible through NIMs, NVIDIA Inference Microservices, to bring that goodness from multiple AI models onto this platform, and then they are GPU accelerated for the best performance and optimization.
Yeah, excellent points. Well, we've got time for a couple more questions. So Shilpa, how are you seeing different countries approaching the development of their sovereign AI strategies, and what lessons do you think can be shared from that?
Yeah, great question. So, every country is taking a slightly different approach, but predominantly the common thread in all of them is focus on the sovereign AI infrastructure, the focus on the data infrastructure, the creation of sovereign large language models, and the ecosystem, which is your talent pool, which is your startups, entrepreneurs. Early investments, early partnerships with the right companies, both public-private partnerships, open models, is what's making it successful. That's how we are starting to see how it's transforming the journey of nations.
Yeah, great points. We do have another question that just popped up in the chat as well. How does your customer calculate total cost of ownership on HPE private cloud? What percentage is upfront cost? What is maintenance cost? Do you guys have any thoughts on that one?
The total cost of ownership for the GreenLake offering is pay as you use, right? So that's the beauty which we bought with the GreenLake offerings, right? So whatever you consume, you pay for that. There is no upfront cost, right? So, and this includes your support and services cost too, right? So everything is packaged and bundled together, and then we give you a model where it is priced together for certain number of years, whatever we agree upon, and then that get divided by monthly basis, right? So it's as simple as that. Yeah. Steve, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and when you with GreenLake, in addition to being a financial model, it really is an operating model too. And so what we have is the ability for either you to operate it or for us to operate it in a managed service provider situation, depending on the configuration, right? And this can be, the hardware can be on your premise, it could be in your colo or some combination there. But what we do is we can get the price. In fact, in some cases, when you look over the total cost of ownership over 5 years, we can be as little as about half the cost of the commercial clouds. And so that's one of the values of it, that it's actually can be a cost saving.
Yeah, excellent points.
Especially for those of you that see runaway cloud costs. This way, at least you know what your costs are going to be. And again, depending on how we do this, we can actually only pay for what you use, even though it's on site.
Very good point, Steve. Well, with that, we're just about out of time here. So I want to say thank you again to all of our speakers here today. Excellent presentation and great questions. So really enjoyed hearing from all of you. And for all of those in our audience, thank you for joining us today. If you missed any of the webinar or want to rewatch anything, the recording will be available just a few minutes after the webinar concludes. If you refresh this page, we'll also send out a link tomorrow with the YouTube video with the recording of this webinar if you want to rewatch anything that you might have missed or want to watch again. So thank you again to all of our speakers, and a special thank you to our partners at HPE and NVIDIA for making this excellent webinar possible. And we'll see all of you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.